Welcome everybody to day one of LearnFest. We hope that you have a fabulous day, hour and a half with us today, and then come and join us again tomorrow as well. Today, we're going to present on 3 different topics, and this is really digging into different educational tools and then how you can use those directly with your Bold portfolio. So we're going to get started. I want to introduce Mr. Kris Jones. He is a teacher, social studies teacher in Adams 12, which is located in Colorado. He teaches at Thornton High School, sophomores and IB seniors. So he teaches world history there and uses Google Classroom with his students and utilized it not only with the students just normally in class, but then also during remote learning, and has a great presentation to show you kind of his tips and tricks about Google Classroom and then how he utilizes Bold portfolios along with Google Classroom. Well, let's dive into what you have to show us about Google Drive.
Okay. So for the past couple of years, like I said, I've been using several of the Google apps. Both districts that I've been a part of had the Google Suite, and I like to use it for everything. It's where I keep all of my curriculum and all of my assignments and all of that kind of stuff. So what I found was the first week or so of distance learning, like I said, the students were just struggling, even as easy as the Google Classroom makes it, by splitting it out into units and then having all that there. I was with even as little as I thought I was giving them, especially my sophomores, were just struggling with, where do I find that YouTube video and where do I find that link, and your Google Forms are too long. Shared with Bria that I was struggling with it, and she's like, well, let's just make a resource page out of it. And I did. I loved it, and more importantly, my students ended up loving it. But basically, with Google Drive, you have the ability to make folders, like you see here, all my different stuff that's been made a folder. And whenever you create a class in Google Classroom and then a unit within Google Classroom, it's all going to live in these folders. It automatically makes a folder in your Google Drive. So for instance, world history is right there as its own folder. If you were to click on that, everything that's on Google Classroom is housed in that folder. Or you can make your own Google Doc. And what Google Docs are super helpful for is it's just like Word, except you can make it instantly shareable. So if I'm doing group work, or if I have a group assignment, the group of students can be on the same document at the same time, editing it all and sharing it all together, even if they're not in a shared space. So that helped out with the distance learning projects. I also use Google Slides, which is very similar to PowerPoint. And again, a lot of students are comfortable using Google Slides as their presentation piece, and they can share that with their classmates or their group members, and they can all have editing rights to that. My favorite thing that I use probably more than anything is Google Forms, because you can use it as reading checks, you can use it as quizzes, you can use it as the ability to embed videos and all that kind of stuff into the Google Form. But what I found was I was probably using it a little too much, and I was making them too robust. And the one thing that I found with Google Forms is once a student leaves, it's hard for them to go back and start where they left off without having to start at the very beginning. And when I shared that with Bria, she's like, well, let's try making a resource page out of this. And so I did. And this is what it would look like if I was to, sorry, I signed myself out. Okay, so a resource page with anything and everything I needed to, and the students, I could post this one page onto my Google Classroom, and they would have everything that they needed for the assignments that I created for them. So I would create a page, and I ended the year, one of my last units was on the Cold War. And then, of course, with Bulb, just the ability to add cover images and all that kind of thing, which I'm going to skip and just go to the technical side of it. To embed, super easy. If I wanted to do a video from YouTube or Vimeo or whatever, I can totally add that. And that way the student could view that on their own, then they could leave the page and come back. Or an image, if I wanted to have them look at a historical image about the Cold War, or a political cartoon or something like that. Or in the case of Google, I can use files. So I would click on file, and one of your options is Google Drive. And like we said earlier, Google Drive is already connected to your Bulb. So you click on it. Since I have multiple accounts, I'm going to click on my school account. And what it does is it brings up all those folders, which can be daunting, but they have this nice search tool. So I'm just going to look for all of my Cold War stuff. And I have a Google Doc that I had created where I taken snippets of different readings from different textbooks, different stuff that I wanted the students to learn. I put it all in a Google Doc. I can click on that. I can also make it a PDF if I wanted to, and post that in there so that the students can't manipulate it. But what I like about Google Docs is, if let's say I'm scrolling in and I don't like this, the class copy turned into the end of class, because I'm not making copies of it, I'm making electronic, I want to delete that, I can go back into my Google Docs, I can delete that, and once I've deleted it in Google Docs, it's actually updated in my Bulb page. So if I were to go to Google Docs and delete that, when I would reopen this Bulb page, it would be gone here as well. So it makes it a living document, something that I can change at will as I need, as I find new stuff and want to add new things to it. So that's what I really liked about the Google Docs point of it. Later on, I could add a slides if I wanted to see them do a presentation. And what I learned actually from my mother-in-law was this audio feature where she had made an entire page and she narrated the page by using the audio file. As you scrolled through, it read the page to you, which could be very helpful, especially with students who struggle with English, or lower level students or whatever. So what I think I'm going to start working on for next year is adding audio, my voice, to slides or whatever, to help that out so that students can hear it, so those auditory learners can definitely engage with that. And then, as I said, I also like files, or I'm sorry, I also like Google Forms. So what I really like about this is, instead of making one big gigantic Google form, I could make a couple of small Google Forms, and I could embed those in and use them as basically reading checks to see if the students were really grasping what I was trying to get them towards. So again, I'm going to look up Cold War, and I'm going to scroll. Oh, there's. So Cold War Part 1, I click on that, and it immediately embeds my form into it. Now for this one, I chose one that I had made previous, not one of my updated ones, so I could take out the email address and class period, all that kind of stuff, because it's already there in their Bulb page. And again, if you change it in Google Forms, it automatically changes it here. But also for Google Forms, when I make this live for the students, when I publish it and share it to the students, they can actually click, and it's in their portfolio, and they click and answer as they go through. They don't have to go to Forms. They can do the form directly on the Bulb page itself. And even though it's on their Bulb page, it populates into my Google Classroom gradebook, and I will see that, and I can see the grade immediate. So I can give immediate feedback. I can show them what their grade was, and I can see where my form or my bold page wasn't quite hitting exactly what I wanted to. So I need to change some things and I need to reteach and get to that. And in a normal classroom setting, where I would use this is taking out that lecture time and instead allowing me to give a brief 10-minute presentation at the beginning of my class with the overall, hey, this is what the Cold War is. Here's the big topics, the main idea topics that you need to learn. And now you get to go do discovery learning on your own through this bold page where I can embed, videos. I can do URLs to web pages, to History Channel or biography.com or whatever it is I want to use. And it's all right there in one page. And what my students were giving me feedback on is that they loved the ability to do this on their own pace. And since we were doing asynchronous learning or allowing students to not have to be in class at a certain time, this allowed them that freedom. I had a ton of seniors who used the opportunity to focus on jobs or getting ready for college or whatever, and they just weren't available at the same time that I was, and this was easy for them. And I saw my seniors especially start using this more, and they loved it, and I got awesome, wonderful feedback from that. So in a nutshell, that's how you would integrate your Google Drive and all that's found in Google Drive into Bulb. I think I hit everything. Are there any questions?
As we give time for people to write in any questions they have about integrating Google Docs or Sheets or slides or forms into Google, one thing I was just going to say, as Kris showed, that it is, when you add your Google documents, it's a live linked embed, so those automatic updates happen. But sometimes there is the opportunity to capture moments in time where you want, hey, this is my first draft, and you want the things that are done there, and then you want to make edits. And so you can download like a PDF version of that one moment in time directly in from your Google Drive and add it to Bulb. So you can say, hey, here's my first draft, and then you can go and make your edits and then add that second and final draft into Bulb or whatever that looks like. So there's some opportunities to be able to document process through that as well. And we didn't get a chance to get into it, but we also have a thing called Google Drive PDF Snapshot, which when you think about Bulb as a portfolio for life, students get to take it even when they leave their school, which a lot of times their Google Drive, like Kris's is attached to his school account. As a teacher or a student, you're going to have documents from your Google Drive in your Bulb, and you want to make sure that those are still in your Bulb account once you leave and do not have access to that school account. And that's called our PDF snapshot. And we actually automatically save versions of all your Google Docs in your asset library. So that if you do leave your school, you don't ever lose access to those documents that you've added to Bulb. So it's pretty cool. There's a modal that shows up in your portfolio, and you can also access it via your settings to enable that PDF snapshot. That is the one thing in Google that you do have to enable and turn on. So that's just another little tidbit to end. So thank you so much, Kris.
Laura had a really quick question.
Great, yeah.
Headers in to distinguish the different items. Yes, that's actually why I loved the Bulb page integration. Was it looks just like a Bulb page. You have the freedom and ability to make it your own. You can have the different headers. You can have the different slideshows, all the different things that are there in the normal Bulb page. You can absolutely add to make headers on the Bulb page to differentiate the sections of what you're going to do. And then you can make different pages within a collection. So if I wanted a complete collection of Cold War with different pages of different topics, you can do that as well.